Supervisors, meeting to order. All please rise for invocation by Supervisor Bishop. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Wakamoto.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. We thank you for our great country, and we ask for your divine wisdom for all of our leaders here today. May we be given the wisdom and courage in the decisions that we make. We ask that you guide and direct our meeting so that it's full of productivity and respect for one another. We pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to call for executive session to be held on March 19th, 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Committee and legislative reports. Supervisor Wakamoto.
I'm trying to think. We had a conversation with the Gila Indian community about some of the water issues that we have here. We've had different conferences with different people about water, and that's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Bishop.
I have no report. Thank you.
County Manager's report.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Approval of the February 5th, 2018 Board of Supervisors minutes. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same side. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, we have Supervisor Watson on the phone. Is Supervisor Angus on the phone?
Supervisor Angus? No, she is not.
All right. Supervisor Watson might be called back, so I'm going to jump ahead to the...
Actually, I'm on the phone.
Right. Well, in case you have to leave, we have a few call the publics and stuff, so I'll go with yours ahead of time. We'll go to item 37, discussion possible action authorizing not to exceed $20,000. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I bring this item to you for authorization for up to $20,000 for possible lawsuit with the concerning the CAP transfer of water from the Colorado River, fourth priority. And I believe it's a very important item for us to be prepared for litigation if that's what it's going to take. So I bring this item to you this morning, and I'll offer it as a motion for approval on item number 37.
We have seconds or discussion?
I second the motion.
We have a second with discussion.
I think this is really important to the future of Mojave County in terms of growth and development. We need to be proactive in everything that we're going to do with this issue that continues to loom over our county and the ability to grow.
Any questions?
Nope.
I have a question, Supervisor Watson. So far, we haven't got any standing in this fight yet. Is this to just set aside the $20,000, or is somebody going to spend this $20,000?
Well, I believe it might be a set aside. We haven't yet to gain standing, but we need to be prepared. I think we can get standing, and I think we need to be prepared on this. If you confer with legal, I think that you may find out that already this item being on the agenda has had some movement of thought in the other camp. So that's what I can report to you.
All right, that answers my question. If it's set aside and we're not spending it right away, I have no objection. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll go back to the call to the public.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Wayne Hollis.
morning, Chairman and Supervisors. My name's Wayne Holland, 4825 North Mormon Flat Road, Golden Valley. I am come up here a little disappointed with something. I've been working with the Keep Arizona Beautiful program for quite some time now, trying to get a meeting set up here with Kingman and Mojave County and other interested individuals or corporations or whatever to have a what they call a REAP, a Rural Environmental Action Planning meeting. And that can cover both illegal dumping and recycling, which we have none in the county. To include Kingman, they collect recycling, but they don't really have a program other than collecting it. So, and they've contacted Todd Davison at Erase. Not sure why they contacted him and not somebody else, but seems like Public Works is dragging their feet. They think they don't need a meeting. This is free resources to the county, not costing us anything except their time and effort. And Erase is doing a fantastic job with the resources that's been given them. So that's not an issue. And our program has improved over the last 6 to 9 months, and I don't think they can do much more than what they're doing without additional resources that you guys would be required to furnish them. But it would be nice if we could get a meeting set up and discuss some resources and more educational ability, because me going out and picking up the trash and Erase citing a few people that they can, that's only part of the solution. The other solution is education. And if we ain't doing that, that's one of the main things. I mean, I can kind of keep up with the trash, and Erase can kind of keep track with the prosecutions and stuff, but we want to kind of slow down the dumping and let the people in the county know the resources. And I've been trying to get the county to do just a slogan and promote this slogan for illegal dumping and stopping it and cleaning it up. Can't even get that done. That, to me, pretty simple and fairly inexpensive to do. I'd just like to see more participation by the county and be more active in taking care of the illegal dumping and getting it cleaned up. Thank you very much.
Jennifer Jones Esposito.
Jennifer Jones Esposito, candidate for the Arizona House of Representatives, 3211 East Snavely Avenue, Kingman, Arizona. I'm still wondering why Shinnerump Road has not been brought into the county plan. It's still my understanding it was taken out, and I have yet to hear any kind of explanation for why that may have been or what the impetus was behind it, but I still feel that it's extremely important for that to be completed. When the Legend Ranch Road project was proposed, even though I had yet not moved up here or bought my property in Golden Valley, I felt that I didn't have the right to weigh in on that, to express an opinion on that, unless I had done my due diligence. So I got in my pickup truck and I drove it. And I was stunned that that was given priority over Shinnerump. And so doing due diligence is extremely important. And in that capacity, I feel that this entire board, in their aspect of being the board for the Golden Valley Improvement District, has not done their due diligence in the rate increase that they passed. I feel that they have, in essence, deferred their jobs, their authority to question, to get answers, to do their research to Supervisor Bishop because it's her district. But when you do that, you've essentially created a board of one, when we're supposed to have a board of 5. The county attorney has decided, in his opinion, that the action is not subject to initiative or referendum. I'm doing research on that. I don't necessarily agree, and when I'm done with my research, we'll all have the answer to my opinion on that, because everyone's entitled to an opinion, and essentially judges usually make the final determination on that. But $600,000 for smart meters and an additional water storage tank we may not need, when in fact annual revenue from water sales has decreased by over $50,000 from fiscal year 2014 to fiscal year 2017. We're not bringing in revenue in that district. And
has left the conference.
The majority of properties around my property are those properties that the treasurer told you last time were in tax default. Years in tax default, vacant land, all throughout this 40 square mile area. And I don't think that you all did your due diligence. I don't believe that you drove through it, that you checked it out. I think that this decision to make this rate increase was based specifically on Supervisors Bishop's statements, which I believe were very misleading. Many of us are okay with an increase, just not to have it spent on smart meters and a storage tank we don't need. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Pape.
Good morning, Supervisors. Barbara Pape, 3908 Jamboy Way, Bullhead City. I'm here. I have deep concerns on the revision issue on MVIDD board members' actions on most of on Mojave County water rights. And I'm requesting that our Mojave Board of Supervisors or our Mojave County Administration to take action against the Mojave Valley Irrigation Drainage District Board members with a legal action. I didn't realize that legal action in item number 37 was going to be part of this, so I agree with that. Okay, legal action possibly with a class. We want a civil class action lawsuit to each and every one of MVIDD board members who votes for this who votes to pass the revision that will be transferring our water allotments and our water rights out of Mojave County. The revision that was placed in that particular document was to protect the county water from transferring out of our county. Believe me, this revision will take away our water and our water rights, and will put our economic levels and economic base and development in jeopardy. I want them to be responsible. When they make the decision, I want them to be responsible. We also need to take an issue on the action of conflict of interest with one of the board members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Arthur Garnici.
My name is Arthur Garnica. I live at 3902 East Packard, Kingman, Arizona. At the last meeting I came, I was asking you guys for help against a couple board members, Bailey, Collins, and I talked about an Eric Berg and the county attorney saying about getting Eric Berg on the board. Well, 2 days later, I went to the board meeting, and then James Bailey, after the meeting, I was asking Patty Lewis a question about a misuse of public funds for $6,000 that Pat Moore and Jim Bailey, Mike Collins, and all them, Eric Berg, had said they needed the policy for the rules and regulations done, but they never adopted them all this time. So I was asking her a question. So is that a misuse of public funds, $6,000 to have something done and nothing be done with the paperwork? And she goes, yes. And then Jim Bailey started arguing like, well, this and that. I said, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to her. I had to say it 3 times, and he started getting argumentative and trying to like get aggressive with me. And then he had made a movement that kind of set me off. Like he stepped back, and I kind of like walked away from him. And then as I was walking out, there was 2 investigators, Lyman Watson and Steve Ald. He called me by, I had my last name changed. As I was walking out, he called me by my other last name. And I walked out, I came back in, I said, my name's Arthur Garnica. And he kept on referring me to as that other last name.
One second. I don't know that we have any jurisdiction over the issues you're bringing up, sir.
We don't. I don't see any jurisdiction over any of these. It's up to the board whether you wish to continue with it, but there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing.
You're the same
that
guy I
you're
talked
saying.
to that told me that they're allowed to call me a punk, tell me to shut up, allowed me to tell me to sit down. So I don't want, I feel that anything you say is not going to be right, because you had told me stuff that wasn't right before.
I disagree with you, but there's nothing here that the board could do on this particular issue you're addressing today.
If that's the only issue you have, sir, there's nothing the board can do about it. Is there any other issue you had?
With the board members, would be asking for help against the board members, because she helped, Jean Bishop helped against Vic Riccardi. All right.
If something is brought before the board by the county attorney, or if the board
All right, the
dissolves,
county attorney
then
called me
it'll
and told
come
me
to-
that he is, because I filed a complaint against Jim Bailey and Mike Collins, and then Shopman had sent it to Yavapai County, and then Shopman calls me and tells me, you know, the people you're complaining against are my witnesses.
Okay,
You
well,
go,
that's
me-
all the time we're going to give you, sir, because we can't do anything about this. This is a fire district issue, and it has nothing to do with the Board of Supervisors. I'm sorry, there's nothing.
So then how did Jean Bishop do something about the fire district, the problem with,
On
Pick
something
apart.
like that, we can't get into an answering session here, sir. If you have a question of Supervisor
Well,
Bishop, you
can I
can
get
answer
a,
afterwards, or Supervisor, or
how do I get put
county
on
manager.
the agenda to speak about
You
my
have to go
issues?
to the county manager or to one of your supervisors.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Eva Corbett?
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I'm Eva Corbett, 2426 Topanga Drive, Bullhead City, 86442. I have two issues I wanted to talk about, so they said I had to do it on one piece of paper. First of all, we have a very important meeting with the Mojave Valley Irrigation Drainage District tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 6th at 4 p.m., and it's going to be at the Fire Station Training Center on Willow Street in Mojave Valley. And it's very important that we get 1,000 people there to show strength that we do oppose any transfer of our water allotment out of the district, out of Mojave Valley, to Phoenix. Second item is that I'm the fundraising person for Bullhead City for the Mojave County Sheriff's K-9 unit. And I wanted you guys I invite everyone, in you supervisors and the audience, to like our page. It's called Friends of the Mojave County Sheriff's K-9 unit. We'd like for you to like our page so you can get updated on when we're having our fundraisers during the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Robinson.
Stephen Robinson, General Delivery, Golden Valley, Arizona. I should say maybe I'm living rent-free in Supervisor Bishop and County Managers Hendricks' head, because I stated last week, or last meeting, that Supervisor Bishop had been investigating an address I had given at a previous board meeting. She said after the meeting that she had already checked out that address. Then I received a copy of an email dated just 4 days later from Steve Latosky to Mike Hendricks and Ryan Esplin, saying, I am writing merely to communicate that the address on Mormon Flat Road is not owned by Mr. Robinson, and its water's been disconnected since July 27th of this year. it was disconnected because of a leak. So I'm wondering, why is there such a focus? Ms. Bishop, you accused me of lying at the last meeting, but I think I'm providing more than enough evidence that I have not lied about anything. But you said that the recall petition claims are, quote, vague and preposterous. The recall petition states that Supervisor Bishop has engaged in a pattern and practice of failing to be attentive to the concerns of her constituents and advocating against this best interests. Well, here's a list of some specific votes that I believe go against the best interest of your constituents. In 2015, you voted for a 15-cent property tax increase, claiming it was tax neutral because you lowered the library and TV district taxes. Well, those are independent.
1 second, Mr. Robinson. Is this what this public comment section is for?
Well, he can talk about anything. He can talk about items that relate to the jurisdiction of the board. He cannot do personal attacks, and I would ask you to refrain from any personal attacks against any individual on the board or that's sitting here.
That would be a good idea for them to maintain that same attitude.
I'm not going to have an argument with you, Mr. Robinson.
Okay, well, can I finish reading the specific votes by the board?
And I would leave it at that. You can go ahead and leave it at that, but
Okay,
beyond
thank
that,
you.
let's not have any personal attacks.
Then after lowering those taxes, the library district to an unsustainable rate, 2 years later it was raised back up to the current, or at least by 7 cents out of the 10 cents that was dropped. You voted in 2017 for a 26% property tax increase, the highest in county history. While not supporting across-the-board step increases, you have voted consistently for huge salary increases for specific employees, as much as 10, 15% for hot jobs employees or whatever that's defined. You voted for a half percent.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, I guess I lost some of my time, but there's so many things you have voted for that is in
Point of order.
contradiction to the interest.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the consent. Items 5 through 31. Supervisor Wakamoto, do you have any items to be pulled?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
No.
All right, there's no items to be pulled. Do I have a motion to accept items 5 through 31?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Go to item number 32. Is open public hearing. So I'm opening the public hearing now. Is there anyone wishing to speak to item 32? I believe I had some people signed up. Pat Denning? Denon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pat Denon, Fire Chief for the Desert Hills Fire District, 3983 London Bridge Road in Lake Havasu City. I'm not here in opposition or support of this particular zoning item. I do want to remind the board that rezoning land results in development. The development of that land in the future has a huge potential impact of fire and rescue services throughout Mojave County, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. As the staff report states, there's no road access, there's no utilities, there's no water, power, or sewer, and it's only accessible by off-road vehicles. Currently, Desert Hills Fire District serves that area, and we do not have any off-road vehicles. We have highway vehicles that happen to have four-wheel drive, but we don't have any off-road vehicles. And neither do any of the surrounding fire districts. I checked with Yucca, Golden Valley. Kingman does have an off-road vehicle, but they don't use it for the purpose of rescue. Lake Havasu City has one they use for the purpose of rescue, but it's not reasonably close to this parcel. The consideration of using air ambulance assets into that area if we can't gain ground access is not feasible as well, simply because pilots choose not to land in areas that are unsupervised. And the main purpose of my visit today is to realize that this could become a off-road destination for our off-road highway enthusiasts, similar to the bar down in La Paz County. And access to this particular region is going to come throughout every area of Mojave County, including all the areas that surround this that are not protected by fire protection districts. of which that open public land, as a couple of you are familiar with, you collect roughly $4 million of PILT money each year for the purpose of providing services in areas that are not served by anybody's fire district or law enforcement agency. So with that said, my caution is simply the increased off-road fire and rescue potential in this particular area as a result of this development. Thank you very much.
1 second, sir. Do you have anybody have any questions, Chief?
I do. This has no utilities or anything else to it, and they're just going to change this, and you have no vehicles that would be able to service this area in case of fire.
That's correct. I have no off-road fire suppression vehicles. We have pickup trucks that we could potentially gain access, but currently I have no way to provide fire suppression. And again, realize that this item is simply to rezone the property, but rezoning creates development.
Thank you.
No.
So that same thing would go for rescue assist, too?
That's correct.
And then,
We do have a very robust volunteer search and rescue program through the Sheriff's Department, but they don't mobilize in a quick fashion as if it's a fire department or a police department that's ready to go at any moment.
and then obviously you bring up a good point, comparing it with La Paz, where if it does take off to something that's really good, there can be hundreds, if not thousands, of people out there. And while Desert Hills is a fire district, I don't even know that you'd have to be calling in people from all over if something major did happen.
That's correct. We did experience this already with this particular parcel when it opened the first time, and it resulted in hundreds and hundreds of off-road vehicles reaching that site via the dirt road in front of the fire station, and just quite frankly, in the entire community, created a dust storm that held over the entire Havasu Heights area. So,
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Michael Wetter?
Michael Wetton, 985 Bluebird, Lake Havasu City, Arizona. I'm one of the partners in the project. Just first off the bat, the parcel that he's talking about is not our parcel. We're before the Desert Heights or Desert Hills area. We have nothing to do with the Razor Ridge one that was going on before. This is a totally different project, totally different people, and we're trying to do it right. We've been working on this for over 2 years now. We are working with the BLM to get access to the properties. We've already paid our fees, and we are in the process of getting that. It will come in through Lone Tree Road where the existing campground is. It's before you get to Havasu Heights. We already have liquor licenses. We're working on the zoning right now, as you can see, and then as soon as we get the legal accesses, then we can proceed with the project. But just to clarify, where he was talking about going by his fire department, we are not in that area at all. If you have any questions for me, I'm open and willing to answer any questions you have.
You won't be served by the Desert Hills Fire Department?
I believe that the Desert Hills Fire Department would be in the jurisdiction of it, but what I was clarifying is he's getting me confused with a gentleman that was trying to do this and was not doing everything properly. It had opened up, was selling out. He got a bunch of fines. I'm not exactly sure. He's on the opposite side of Havasu Heights. We're actually between Havasu Heights and Lake Havasu City, approximately about 1.5 miles down, it's called Lone Tree Road, which is a BLM access, and we're getting the legal accesses for the commercial directly through BLM land. So we're not even crossing any private property in order to access our property. We're going directly through BLM.
And the BLM land has a road that would support different vehicles in case something happened?
I believe that there would probably have to be some upgrades to the road in the existing condition that it is in right now for the accesses. But I was also under the impression that they're going to have us do like fire suppression systems and that type of stuff on the facility itself.
Any other questions? But that'll be all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll go to our 10 o'clock. We have a set auction. So I'll have the county manager run the auction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Supervisors on November 20th, 2017 authorized and approved the Mojave County Flood Control Department to sell at public auction 3 pieces of property. I'd like to read something prior to us beginning to set some ground. The property will be sold to the highest bidder for cash or contract of purchase, and upon such other terms and conditions and for such other considerations as the board may prescribe prior to or at the auction. The appraised value of the property, the county is obligated to take 90% of the appraised value of the property. The board can set that minimum value at anything. Staff is recommending that we sell the property at above the appraised value plus other costs incurred in the sale, which per parcel is $209.33 currently. We recommend that the board open the bid at 90% of the appraised value plus the $209.33 as stated, which would include the appraisal cost and advertising costs. At the time of the bidding, the bidder must provide confirmation of funds to enable the purchase of the property by the bank letter or its equivalent, or by other means deemed appropriate by the board. The property shall be sold as is without any warranties expressed or implied as to its condition. Title shall be evidenced by a special warranty deed, term of which shall read as follows: further subject to the following restrictive covenants. Vertical development shall not be built on the property. Vertical development includes, but is not limited to, the following: habitable and non-habitable buildings and structures, such as residential homes and commercial buildings, carports, garages, sheds, fill dirt and storage of equipment or materials. The property is located in a floodplain, and the intent of this restrictive covenant is to prevent damage to property and lives by flood. And the property may be used for any purpose other than vertical development, including without limitation. Anyway, I'd like to start the auction.
Get her done.
Okay, I am starting the auction with lot 209 of Beaver Dam Resort. APN number is 402-87-023. It's located at 256 North Charlie Chaplin Way. The appraised value is $7,500. 90% of the appraised value would be $6,750, including the $209.33. That brings the total minimum bid that we're recommending the board accept to $6,959.33. And I'd like to start and open the bidding to the public. Do we have any bidders on the property?
Come on down to the front, sir, if you would, please.
Just to repeat, that would be APN number 42-87-023. That's lot 209 of Beaver Dam Resort. Minimum bid would be $6,959.33.
My name is Tim Frazier. I'm president of the association there now, and we would bid the minimum $6,750 plus that on that particular lot.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other bids in the audience? Yes, sir.
Come up, identify yourself for us, sir, please. Thank you.
Corey Morley, Las Vegas, Nevada.
I'm sorry, could I get your name again, sir?
Corey Morley, Las Vegas, Nevada, 8001 Roxburgh Castle. And I'll bid $7,500.
We have a bid of $7,500. Do we have any other bids in the audience? Going once, going twice. If I have your name right, it's Morley. Mr. Morley, if you would, after this meeting or right now, if appropriate, you can meet with Tim Tim Walsh, is that correct? And, or our procurement director, Becky O'Brien, and they can work out the details for you. And I've got 2 more properties if you wish to stay for those. Sure. Okay, the second property to bid would be Lot 219 of Beaver Dam Resort, APN number 402-87033. That's at 3500 East Clark Gable Drive. Appraised value is $1,000. 90% of $1,000 is $900, including the fees and appraisal of $209.33. That would be a total of $1,109.33. We're recommending that the board accept that as a minimum bid. And I'd like to start the auction for that piece of property. Do I have any bidders for the Lot 219 of Beaver Dam Resort for the minimum bid? Yes, sir, in the back? Is that for the minimum bid?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've got somebody in the back bidding $1109.33. I'm asking for another bid, a higher bid, sir. $1,200. We have $1,200 bid on the property. I'm asking if there's any other bidders in the audience. Going once, going twice. Yes, sir. Sir, the properties are being sold as is, with no warranties implied or expressed, and a bidder would need to do his own due diligence on the piece of property to ascertain whether he wants to bid on it.
Utilities or anything to either one of those properties, and there won't be either.
And there's no vertical construction either. Thank you, sir. Does your bid stand? No. Okay, so I'll go back to the previous bidder of $11,009.33 to see if you still want to hold that bid. Is that a yes, sir? Yes. So I'd recommend that the board would accept for parcel 219 of Beaver Dam Resort, APN number 402-87033. Mr. Praiser bidding $11,009.33. And same if you want to get with, I'm sorry, 1,100.
He said sold.
And we really appreciate your bid. No, yeah, thank you, sir, for correcting me. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next piece of property. The next property is lot 220 of Beaver Dam Resort, APN number 402-87034. It's at 3498 East Clark Gable Drive. It's appraised at $1,000. I'm asking, as previously described, the total minimum bid that I'm asking the board to accept is $1,109.33 on the property. Do I have any bidders? Mr. Praiser in the back has bid $1,109.33. Do I have any other bidders? Looking for another bidder, going once, going twice. Mr. Fraser, I'm asking the board to sell you that piece of property at $1,109.33. So sold in same condition if you can get with our procurement director and or our development services director after the meeting. Thank you, and that closes the auction process. Thank you.
I would ask the board to accept the bids as per the county manager's auction. Have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go back to item number 32. Okay, I think we have Christopher Blackwell.
Hello, Christopher Blackwell, 4050 Crest Lane, Lake Havasu City, Arizona. And I'm one of the partners in the proposed outdoor bar. Again, Mr. Winton, he spoke that the fire district is speaking of the wrong lot. I wanted to point that out again. And then I also wanted to make it known, I'm sure you're all aware of the Peace Trail that runs up through Havasu. This property is about a mile off of the Peace Trail down Lone Tree Road. So it'd be, our hope is to graft off-roaders from the Peace Trail down Lone Tree Road to our facility. And we're trying hard to keep anybody from going through Havasu Heights. We understand the problems that the other establishment created in a short time. We would like to make it known that we're trying to avoid traffic conditions and really respect the private property out there. That said, our property is bordered on two sides by BLM. All of our access will be BLM. And the Peace Trail to our property is just a BLM. And then the fire district, I understand his, you have to get public safety out to any kind of an open establishment, I'm sure. The Lone Tree Road right now would not, you couldn't drive an engine up and down it. You could, you'd probably tear it up. But it would be easy to groom the road to make it where it would support anything that Desert Hills has. I don't know if you have any further questions or, excuse me.
I don't believe there's any questions. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll close the public hearing. As noted in the findings of fact, the site does not have legal access, and it's not served by water or sewer. Your district, Supervisor Wakamoto, but it seems to me we've gotten the cart before the horse on this, on these two items. If it was up to me, I would ask the applicant to withdraw these two items, because if we vote, and I don't know how the other board members are going to vote, but if we vote to kill this, then that stops the process for a certain period of time, which would be, hold up fingers, how long? 1 year.
Mr. Chairman,
So.
I believe Development Services may have some extenuating circumstances that the board should at least hear. Is that correct, Tim, on this particular property, if you'll allow him to do that?
Chairman Johnson, members of the board, our understanding, and it may be a better question for the developer himself, but our understanding is that in order to obtain that access, BLM was working with them to see if they could get the zoning first. So that was our understanding, but I think that would be a better question for the applicant on the question of accessibility and whether they need this actual area and rezone in order to achieve that access.
And is that the first time you've ever heard? I've never heard of that before. I'm in the process of doing an application with BLM for right-of-ways to put a road in, and they don't ask that I have my zoning in place ahead of time. And usually you have your right-of-way issue taken care of first, because if the county goes ahead and approves something and it doesn't go through, then we're back to square one. Why are we doing all this work when something doesn't have the legal access?
And I'm not 100% as far as BLM's requirements on providing access, but I know from a county standpoint, the general plan amendment and the rezone would get them to that point. We would also have at the site plan stage, we would be working with the fire marshals on meeting any requirements they had based on the site plan, and then prior to a C of O, the fire department would also have a time to inspect the property and make sure that their needs are met. But definitely from an access point, we wouldn't be approving a site plan without a legal access to the property.
Right, and we don't usually do that. I mean, we're looking at something that could have a great effect, which could be a good economic boost for the area, but at the same time, like the gentleman's saying, that they would like to go, so it doesn't go through Havasu Heights, which would obviously be a great benefit, but you can't control where the people drive, no matter what they do. But my opinion would be that they would have all that done before they came to us. This seems to have gotten pushed through rather quickly for some unknown reason. But that's all I have.
Okay.
Well, and the other question is not just fire, but human safety. If you can't get That's a concern for me. If you can't get to a place where if somebody is hurt, then that presents a problem. And
that would be the conditions that we would be looking for in approval of the site plan and approval of the building permits. We would be working with Public Works on what requirements they would have for a public right-of-way to the site. If it were to be, which I would assume going through BLM, it would be a dedicated right-of-way, public right-of-way. So it would need to meet Public Works' requirements on providing that access to this site. Those all would be a condition of the site plan. The site plan approval, I'm sorry.
but with off-road vehicles that people are driving, you have no control over where they're at. I mean, this area may be safe, but if somebody decides to take, you encourage them not to get on private property.
Correct.
So if we had something happen, we would not be able to get to help them. Is that correct? Or am I not understanding this?
As it currently stands, there's no legal access to the property. Prior to Development Services issuing any permits to construct or approve a site plan, any construction out there will require that there's legal access to the site before we'll allow for that. And Chris, if you can, I'll have Chris come help me make sure I'm not steering you astray as well. But
Mr. Chairman, I think one of your questions hasn't been answered yet. Is this a typical thing, or do we usually require all this to be ironed out prior to bringing this forward before the board?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hendricks, members of the board, we've done it both ways in the past, and it's more dependent on the applicant's schedule than it is Development Services requirements. We've conditioned rezones before to them obtaining legal access before the property's put to use or any permits are issued. We have also had them come in with the BLM saying that once the rezone is approved, then the access is available. Though if they do it that way, they usually do it conditional too. But a great deal of what the district does is dependent upon who the district manager is at any one time. So we try and work with whatever the manager wants to do.
Now, did law enforcement, see, that's my problem. It seems like we're getting way ahead of ourselves, because obviously a bar in the middle of nowhere is going to raise some kind of concerns with the sheriff, I'm sure. Did they weigh in at planning and zoning? I doubt that they were even part of it, were they?
Mr. Johnson, members of the board, law enforcement is not typically part of our review process. So this particular application would have gone through the normal sequence of events. So no, law enforcement has not weighed in on this yet.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Chairman Johnson, could we hear from the sheriff and see how he feels about this? He's in the audience.
Oh. Sheriff Schuster. Not sure the sheriff's aware of the location. Can IT put the map up? I don't know if that'll even help much, probably not.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, distinguished members of the board, Madam Clerk. Actually, I was not aware of this initiative, and that's okay. I actually commend the developers for trying to do the right thing. From a law enforcement standpoint, excuse me, we're dealing with this anyhow currently. I mean, it's become a very popular destination to ride out in the deserts, And when we have a call for service, as remote as it is, we're going. So we would not be opposing this in any way, shape, or form if they had appropriate access for us to get into that area.
And would you be able to, is that going to, especially if it goes like the other ones have, it'll be the same timeline as Parker, you know, basically their hours will be open. I don't know, they might be open, 12 months out of the year, but I doubt it. But is that going to put any stress on, it's a long ways from the boating guys to the, to a bar out in Havasu Heights.
Yeah, you know, that's the unknown. Like I said, we do handle several calls in the summertime for people who recreate out in the desert, and it's informal. It's a gathering that they choose a meeting point, and they're out there basically doing the same thing without the structure that we're talking about here. I personally prefer having them all in one place, quite honestly, and I would recommend, private security for day in and day out business. You're right, it is difficult to task the sheriff's office with additional resource needs, but it's the cost of doing business, and it's the cost of growth, very similar to the Walmart going in down in Mojave Valley. That brought our calls for service up significantly, but that is the price of doing business, so we do not oppose.
Any questions of Sheriff Schuster?
No questions, but if we decide to approve this, we could put a caveat on that approval is contingent on the BLM approval of gaining access, is my thought.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Sheriff Schuster. We can do that, but at least my personal opinion is this is ahead of itself, because you're going to have a lot of people from the district that are going to be concerned about it, and until the road is set up, it's kind of hard to have opposition or support to even know where it's going. That's just mine. I don't support it this time until they get the right of way and have a better plan in front of us. But that's just mine.
Is that gentleman?
The public hearing's closed.
Okay.
I'll support whatever you and Supervisor Wakamoto want to do, because it's your district, so kind of a joint area down there.
I just have concerns about the inability to service this area. And even though both the sheriff's office and the fire department said they're not here to support or negate this, what happens if we? Is this on a timeline? Is that what it is?
What we do today is, my recommendation would be if it looks like that it's not going to be passed, then I would give them the opportunity to withdraw items 32 and 33, because if it gets a no vote, then you're stuck for a year. And that would give them the opportunity to go ahead and get their right-of-ways and go back into planning and zoning. And that way everybody would know exactly the location, the roads and everything else. The sheriff and the fire district would be able to put their opinions in, but that would be, I mean, because they still have to get all the same things. They don't have anything done yet.
I'd have a hard time approving this right now. I would.
With that, without a vote, would the applicant like to come forward to the board and make any kind of a motion?
Yes, again, Chris Blackwell, 4050 Crest Lane, Lake Havasu City, Arizona. After hearing the discussion with the board, I would like to pull it from the agenda and maybe take care of some of the problems. Just that being said, we were promised by BLM that we were going to have our access by the end of February. We were hoping to come in here with it in hand and dealing with federal government.
I've heard that same story from BLM. Would you like to do that 32 and 33, sir?
32 and 33, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, items 32 and 33 have been pulled, so they're no longer action wanted by the applicant, so we'll take no action on those. Item number 34 is a public hearing. I'll open it up. We do have some people signed up. Stephen Robinson? Oh, just one person signed up.
Stephen Robinson, Golden Valley, Arizona. I first have a question for the attorney to make sure I don't go off topic. Is it appropriate for me to discuss about any other parts of the home occupation guidelines beyond the recommended changes by the Planning and Zoning Commission?
We'll get you an answer in a second.
Okay. I support the expansion of the changes before I get off any other thing. I totally, hardly endorse what Representative David Farnsworth has done, and he has other bills. This bill was approved into law last May and became effective in August, so I'm glad it's finally getting addressed. He has other changes that I hope will be more proactive in endorsing. Part of my concerns is the existing law or ordinance says you cannot use an external building for a home occupation permit. You can't use a garage that's separated from the house. You can't use a barn, which means that the Wright brothers could not have built an airplane in Mojave County, and Compact Computer could not have built a computer in a detached garage because of our guidelines. Another guideline that state law says you can't prohibit 24 by 24 signs. Well, for some reason, even though business hours for some businesses could be till 10 p.m. at night, our guideline says unlit signs. Sometimes it seems like the rules in our county are so restrictive compared to other counties. For instance, in Maricopa County, you can use 25% of your lot for storage up to 8 feet high, just as long as it's not in front yard or side yards. We only allow 200 square feet of storage inside a building. Basically, our laws are anti-business, or this ordinance is almost anti-business. And when you look at all the rural properties across the county, especially in Golden Valley, so many businesses could do better if there wasn't the restrictions that we have in our planning and zoning. So I support this, and I support even looking at deleting the word unlit from the current code that said, and just allow signs during regular business hours. I would encourage changing the storage from 200 square feet to matching closer to what Maricopa County allows, which is far more urban developed, and their rules apply to both urban and rural areas of their county. Our laws are just so anti-business, it's unfortunate, or that this ordinance is. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on this issue? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion that we approve item number 34.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item number 35, discussion possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2018-021. Mr. Letowski.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, members of the board. This item contemplates the board's consideration and acceptance for tertiary maintenance, a 1-mile section of Grossman Road from Shipping Lane 1 mile east. And this is in the just immediately north of the Kingman Airport Industrial Park. The petitioner had presented a petition for Grossman Road that actually spans a longer distance, but has demonstrated to the satisfaction of Public Works that the improvements to the first 1 mile is satisfactory for Public Works staff recommendation for tertiary acceptance should the board desire.
Who owns this land?
This is a public right-of-way that was improved to a minimum tertiary standard by a private party.
This is the Kingman Airport?
This is, I reference the Kingman Airport Industrial Park only as a general vicinity. This is north of the industrial park and is actually not an ingress-egress route for any of the commercial properties.
Any questions of Mr. Letowski? Thank you, Mr. Letowski. Do you have a motion?
Chairman Johnson, I make a motion that we approve Board of Supervisors Resolution 2018-021 as written.
Second. I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 36 was put on by myself. Discussion, possible action, review of the county ordinance that resulted in the Arizona Attorney General's letter dated February 5th, 2018. Legislators' request for Attorney General investigation of alleged state law violation. The reason I put this on, a lot of people came to us, or to myself and other members of the board, from what I understand, asking why this was taken off. And to give it a summary, we have just a few photos to place up there. It started in December 19 of 2017. A call was initiated to the Mojave County Sheriff's Office regarding a concern for animal welfare. Officers responded to the complaint, and upon arrival at the property, the officer was overwhelmed with the smell of feces and urine. The officer also heard several dogs barking inside the single-wide trailer on the property. The owner stated she had a 10-dog residential license for the property. Upon further checking, Planning and Zoning confirmed there was no such kennel license. The officer asked to see the condition of the dogs. The owner stated they were very aggressive, but agreed to bring one dog out at a time. When the owner brought out the first two dogs, they ran straight to a water tub as they had not had any water in days. The officer commented in his report that they were very thin, and you could see the rib cages and backbones on many of them. The owner eventually let the officer into the single-wide trailer where he documented inhumane living conditions. There were 2 to 3 German Shepherds crammed into a medium-sized cage with no access to food or water inside the cages. The trailer smelled like feces and urine, and the officer reported that the cages were filled with dog feces. The officer counted a total of 18 dogs over 3 months old. The owner said that 10 of the dogs had licenses, but upon review, it was found that the majority of the dogs did not have licenses. The owner was cited with counts of not having dog licenses, operating a kennel without a license, and several counts of cruelty to animals. The owner was told that she had 24 hours to construct humane living conditions for the dogs, or animal control would seize the dogs. On December 20th, the original responding officer and 2 other officers, a detective and a Mojave County Planning and Zoning, went back to the property after the 24 hours. They witnessed the owner carrying several grocery bags full of feces out of the property. The dogs were still crated with no access to food or water. An additional dog was found. Overall, they ended up finding 19 dogs on the property and 6 cats. Due to the inhumane conditions of the animals, animal control seized 15 dogs. They were transported to the Kingman Animal Shelter. On December 26th, the animal shelter veterinarian evaluated the dogs, and in his paperwork, he stated they were in poor condition and several had the parasite illness Giardia. One puppy, 4 months old, died of the Giardia, and the parasite is found on surfaces or in soil, food or water that has been contaminated with feces. It is transmissible from animals to humans. The vet report shows some of the dogs to have chronic inflammation and thickening of the ears. Several dogs had periodontal disease, which is chronic infection that affects the gums and the bones that support the teeth. Several of the dogs were 10 to 25% dehydrated, according to the veterinarian reports. On December 27th, a search warrant was issued for the remaining dogs left on the property, along with a search warrant for the cats that were reported to be there as well. Upon arrival, responding officers reported that the condition of the property had not changed. It still smelled of feces and urine. They found 6 cats on the property, all of which had green and yellow discharge coming from their eyes. While one dog did pass away due to the Giardia parasite, due to the quick response of the Mojave County Sheriff's Office, as well as concerned citizens and due diligent wording of our Mojave County ordinances, we were able to save the other dogs. These dogs were housed in dog crates that were too small for them. They had no room to lay down, turn around, or stand upright. There was also no food or water in the cages. A single-wide mobile home was only 904 square feet, which is extremely small living quarters for 19 dogs and 6 cats. These animals were crammed into small spaces, living in inhumane conditions with feces and urine piling up. Two fairly large dogs like these cannot be in the same cage. There's not enough room, and it causes vicious fights. Also, pictures show feces and other unsanitary matter inside the cages, and dogs react in fear when they're forced to live in their own feces. Mojave County followed the law in this instant and followed our zoning ordinance, which allowed any agent of the county may enter the premise where any animal is kept in a reportedly cruel or inhumane manner and deemed to examine such animal and take possession of such an animal when, in his opinion or hers, it requires humane treatment. All of our employees involved in this terrible incident follow the law and save the lives of these animals. I'm proud of the actions and glad that the state action was withdrawn. That's all I had. I just want to make the report on that. I don't know if anybody else had anything.
I just want to say that I'm appalled with the living conditions of these dogs and the medical condition. I had not seen these pictures before. Very sad, very sad. But I would like to hear from Chris Ballard about our ordinances. I know Mr. Robinson is always saying that our ordinance don't complement each other and they're conflicting and we're doing things wrong and we're illegal and all, and this I think would be a perfect opportunity to clear that up. And if we need to adjust our ordinances, I'd like to hear that as well.
Ms. Ballard.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll start by just kind of doing a summary of the provisions that the zoning ordinance has for kennels. We actually have 3 different types of permits that are available to kennels. 2 of them are issued by the staff administratively. The 3rd is actually issued by the board. The 2 permits that are issued by the staff are limited animal permits. One is known as a residential limited animal permit. It's intended for people who have that additional pet. Our number of animals that we allow on site without a special permit is the same number of animals as the state statute defines as having a kennel. So more than 4 animals, an additional permit is necessary. If the person has just that extra 5th or 6th pet, a limited residential animal permit is available to them. Caveats to those, or the limitations on those. First, the additional animals, or the kennel, so to speak, the residential kennel, is not intended for breeding or boarding purposes. Now, that doesn't matter that doesn't mean that the individual can have no puppies at all. I think we usually try and stay in step with environmental health when they consider a kennel to be commercial, and I think that's more than 2 or around 2 litters per year are acceptable. The second type of permit then allows for the breeding. That's a limited commercial permit, and by commercial we don't intend that it's a commercial endeavor on a commercially zoned piece of property. What is intended there is that there is actually breeding taking place. So that's one of the, one of the economic activities that the household engages in is the production of litters and rearing of puppies. The last type of kennel permit is for those folks who have the situation where they have more dogs on site than are allowed by either one of the limited animal permits, and or they're conducting breeding purposes, or they have breeding or boarding on site. And that's a special use permit that comes through the commission and to the Board of Supervisors, who make the final decision on that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I'm just still thinking of those pictures. But thank you for explaining our ordinances. I think that everything is up and kosher, and maybe the county attorney can weigh in. Have you looked at our ordinances, and are they correct? Do they need to be amended or changed?
Oh, I believe the ordinance at issue here is correct and is legal. 37J, is that correct? 37J. Now, if the board wishes to change it or modify it, you can do that in the future, but as it currently stands, I think that 37J is a legal ordinance.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson, for bringing forth this information. It was very informative.
Thank you. Yeah, you'd signed up, Mr. Robinson, but it's not a public hearing, so I'm not taking any comment. All right, that's the last item. We are adjourned.